When you make this connection with the land spirits where you live or where you're traveling to, untold blessings can come your way. The spirits that live here on Earth want to collaborate with us. They want to work with us, and they have important messages to share. Hello and welcome back to Remember Why You're Here, a podcast for seekers and sensitives where you can relax, receive, reconnect to yourself, and remember the most important thing of all, why you're here. As I'm recording this, we are just on the other side of a thick July thunderstorm that rolled in this afternoon with some big thunder and some rain that just turned the whole day into something fresh. The heat of the day shifted. Just the entire mood and the energy has changed in the world around me. I love summer here in Appalachia. I love the opportunity to connect to the life here, to the great diversity of life, the call that always comes to step outside, to be in connection again. And I had this experience the other day that really shifted things for me, and it's inspiring me to share this recording that I made several years ago. I made this recording I think I was just about to have my daughter. So it was a few years ago. It was just before I had my daughter, right when my book was about to come out. And I was sharing about how I like to work with land spirits. And so this came up for me because a couple days ago, I unexpectedly had a morning free on a Sunday, which never happens. And my daughter and her dad were going to a baby shower, and all of a sudden I had just this glorious 2-hour stretch on a day where I didn't think I would have any time whatsoever. And I really sat down and I asked myself, what do I want to do with this wild and precious 2-hour stretch? And I realized the thing that would be the absolute best use of my time, that would deliver me into this state of just absolute connection and remembering, would be to go outside and work with the land spirits. And so that's what I did. I went outside, I tended my outdoor altar, I did a ritual of naming and giving gratitude and blessing all of the beings that I share this landscape with. And it's this wild thing because it really doesn't take me that long. Probably from start to finish, if you add in, sort of the meditation time I take at the end and sometimes journaling, I'm done in less than an hour. And yet it completely changes the flow of my day. It is exactly like a thunderstorm rolling in on a July day and just shifting the energy in the air, opening up this freshness, this cool wind that just revives you with this possibility, revives you with this remembrance of why you're here, who you're here with, and what's possible. So working with the spirits of the land is one of my core practices. It's something that I've started to bring my daughter into in little bits and pieces. And when I revisited this recording, I realized that these practices that I've been doing now, I have been maintaining for years, and they continue to be this font of richness and support and really, truly big, mystical, creative, and inspirational openings for me. So in celebration of this season, in celebration of the richness of life that's surrounding us at all times, this is the audio recording of how to work with land spirits. And in this recording, I'm going to talk about what I mean when I say land spirits, because there's a lot of different directions you could go here, and the 3 core practices that I use to connect and communicate with the spirits of a landscape. So cozy in and let's take a listen. We share this world with many beings, both in the seen and the unseen. For many shamanistic or animistic cultures, our interaction to and relationship with the unseen world was the foundation for health, not only personal health, but the health of our families, our ecosystems, and the world. Everywhere you go on the earth, there's a particular set of spirits in the unseen that want to work with you. So who are the land spirits? Land spirits are any beings that dwell in the seen or unseen that are connected to the land. But most often when we talk about working with land spirits, we're talking about working with those that most people don't perceive, beings that live in the unseen world. So this could be devas, which is conceived of as the oversoul of a certain plant or plant realm. This could also be the spirit of a tree, the spirit of a creek, or the spirit of a whole ecosystem. When I say the word spirit, you can also conceptualize this as a soul. So the soul of a tree or the soul of a river. Another kind of spirit that dwells within most ecosystems on Earth are the spirits of the ancestors. So anyone that dwelled on that land and had a deep connection to that land, especially ancestors that caretook for the land, that had a harmonious, heartfelt relationship with the land, those ancestors will still be there on those landscapes, will still be there and wanting to be working with you to help protect and safeguard and nourish that land. Where my ancestors come from, a type of land spirits that are often talked about are fairies. There's other names for these beings in the unseen, including gnomes or dwarves, but any of these iterations point to whole cultures of beings that exist in the unseen and are attached to and part of a natural landscape. So wherever we go on this earth, we are not the first beings there. And in fact, we're entering into a relationship, a tapestry of relationships that already exist in that place. So why learn how to work with land spirits? Well, everything within an ecosystem and here on Earth is a co-creation. We are not the sole creators on this planet, and in fact, we're more collaborators than anything else. So we are here to learn how to listen to these beings that already live in the land, that already do so much to caretake, nourish, and protect these landscapes, and to learn how to work in communion with them. I truly believe that humans knew how to do this. This was an ancestral skill for human beings, and it's one we're learning how to reconnect to now. When we learn how to work with land spirits, we can create more harmony on the land in which we live. We can create more diversity and more flourishing. If you want an amazing example of this, look up the Findhorn story in Scotland. This is an amazing story about a group of people who moved to this rocky, barren place in Scotland and were able to, through their communications with the beings in the unseen world, the land spirits, actually work with the land to recreate abundance there, to recreate an ecosystem that supported many different forms of life. It is a living example of what happens when we can learn how to communicate with the spirits that live in a landscape. As many indigenous cultures around the world name, human beings are the younger brothers and sisters of existence. We are very new on the scene. So these spirits that dwell in a landscape are much older, they're much wiser, and they understand what the landscape and the ecology as a whole needs, which is something we as human beings are constantly needing to tune into and to learn how to listen to. So of course it makes sense that we would want to work with the land spirits, but it's also true that land spirits want to work with us. Human beings are powerful. We are movers and shapers and creators. And so the spirits of a landscape see this and understand this, and they believe and know that we can work together to create balance, to create harmony, to create and nourish ecosystems that feed us all. So how do you start working with land spirits? Well, I have 3 core practices that I engage with in the land where I live that really helps me stay in relationship to the beings that live there. The first practice is to create a land altar. To create an altar space somewhere outside in the landscape where you can tend that altar, you can bring offerings. I like to keep stones on the altar that represent certain aspects of the land. So a stone that represents the tree people, a stone that represents the waters, a stone that represents the mushrooms. And when you have this layout, it gives you a place to go, to commune and communicate. And it also gives the land spirits a tableau to reach back to you. So you might find that you create something on this altar and then you go back out and it's shifted or changed. And that in of itself can be a communication to you. I like to make sure that I touch base with this altar at least once a month, but ideally for me, every week or every other week, just to go out and refresh the flowers, to sweep it clean, to keep it tended in this way, to keep the life of our relationship fresh. Sometimes it can help to have this altar near a tree or a stone on the land that feels like a gatekeeper for the land as a whole. So maybe you have a big tree that really feels like it's holding a lot of energy for the landscape. At the roots of that tree would be a great place to have an altar, or maybe there's a boulder on the land that really feels prominent. Something about it seems like it would be a protector or a gatekeeper for that space. You could also put your altar there. It's always good to ask the spirits, is this where you want this altar to be? Again, this is a co-creation. And the easiest way to hear that answer is just to feel it in your body. Do you feel settled with where this altar is? Does it feel comfortable? Do you feel relaxed? Can you feel yourself expanding? These are all signs that the spirits there like the placement of the altar and would want to work with you there. The second practice is land blessings. So I like to do these ceremonies every other week or with the moon cycle. So the moon cycle just helps me to remember to do it. So whatever makes sense for you. So if I'm not going out every other week because I don't have time, I'll try to make sure I go out on a new or full moon, or at the very least on the major holidays on the wheel of the year. So this can be on the equinoxes, on the solstices, and on the halfway points in between, which would make for 8 land blessings a year. So these blessings can be super simple. It could be bringing a cup of water out and blessing that water and pouring it into the roots of a tree. It can be standing in place and naming all of the beings that you see around you. Just to say their name is a form of blessing and empowerment. I like to call in the 4 directions. This helps ground and center me. And then I like to call in any of the mountain ranges near me or major parts of the landscape and the place in which I live. And from then on, I start naming any other beings that I can think of that live on that land with me. So I name the spirits of the trees, the spirits of the water. I name the fairies and the unseen ones. I name the ancestors. So this process of naming, it's a meditative process, and it's also a form of honoring. Just by naming these beings, you are giving your energy and your blessings to them. And just know that this energy and attention that you're bringing is a form of blessing. It does not need to be elaborate. And on that note, the third and perhaps simplest thing you can do are just land offerings. And you can do this whenever you're feeling called. Perhaps you got a bouquet of flowers, and when you feel like you've soaked up all the beauty of those flowers, you bring them out and you lay them on the earth, perhaps in the form of a mandala or a pattern. You could again do this ritual with a cup of water. You can go on to the earth and simply sing a song to the earth. Any of these are just offerings that you can give in small or large ways, but just like we give gifts to those we want to be in relationship with, when you give a gift to the land, you're creating this deeper relationship. I guarantee you, if you look at your ancestors and your heritage, you're going to find examples of offerings being left to the unseen beings of the land. So I know in my Irish ancestry, it was common to leave out cups of milk or honey for the fairies. This was a way in which people kept the relationship between the human and more than human world sweet. So be creative with this. Maybe you'll have a meal and you'll decide to put a small plate out for the unseen world. Know that whatever your offering is, it can be spontaneous, it can be small, and it can be just something that speaks to your heart. And if it speaks to you, it will speak to the beings that live in that land. Now, any of these practices can be taken to any landscape that you go to. So I know that when I travel, it feels really important to me to be able to ground in that place by first greeting the spirits that live there. it's important to introduce yourself. It's a form of honor and respect. Now, when I'm traveling, because I won't be staying in those landscapes for a long period of time, I often won't create any kind of permanent altar space, but I will bring offerings and I will say blessings, even if it's just a short blessing every morning, to just thanking the spirits of that land for having me there, naming all the beings that I can by name that are surrounding me, and just giving earnest gratitude for the opportunity to be there with them. There's a quote by the poet David Wagner that I always return to in these instances. Stand still. The trees behind you and the bushes before you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. When you make this connection with the land spirits where you live or where you're traveling to, untold blessings can come your way. The spirits that live here on earth want to collaborate with us. They want to work with us, and they have important messages to share. My new book, Mirrors in the Earth, Reflections on Self-Healing from the Living World, was written in tandem with the spirits that we share this earth with. It is a collection of affirmations and messages from the living world, helping all of us to see and understand our innate worthiness, because it is through understanding ourselves and seeing with compassion the wholeness of our beings that we can really embrace our gifts on this planet. I've been so delighted to be able to share this book with all of you after so many years of working on this true heart project. It's been an incredible experience so far. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, I'll put the link here below. So for those of you who've already dove into the book or got your feet wet with it, I'm curious, what chapter are you loving the most, or what message from the earth is really landing with you? And for those of you who work with land spirits, who are in active communication with those beings that live on the land with you, what have you found from this relationship? What have you realized? Have you had any amazing experiences of synchronicity or connection? The earth is speaking to all of us all the time. Our only job is to learn how to trust ourselves enough to truly listen. I just feel refreshed even like talking about or re-listening to myself talking about how to work with land spirits. It honestly is like one of the biggest, easiest resets that I can access on any given day. So if you engage with any of these 3 core practices, I'm super curious to hear about what comes up. And if you want to share your experience with me, head on over to asiasuler.com/remember and leave me a voice message. I love getting voice messages from y'all. It's one of the highlights of my day. And right now, actually, I'm gathering questions for a special Q&A episode. So you can ask me any question about anything. And I am gathering some questions that are going to appear in that episode coming up. So if you have a question coming up, either about this podcast or any podcast you've listened to, or just something you'd like to hear me rap about, then head on over to my website, asiasuler.com/remember, and leave me a voice message. And I want to thank all of you who have given this podcast a rating or a thumbs up or left a review. It means so much to me. It literally feels like leaving out an offering that is giving me and all the spirits that sustain me energy to keep going. So thank you for that. It is just so impactful. And I got this amazing review the other day from Sophia, so I'm going to read it. Sophia wrote, "As a therapist, I find this to be one of the most potent and nourishing podcasts, both for expanding and deepening my practice with clients, as well as, of course, personally for myself. I say that to highlight the beauty of ripple effects in creating the world we want to live in. Thank you, Asia." And thank you, Sophia, because this is the reality, right? It's like, this is what we're all doing here together, is creating this like ripple effect in the world. And it just means so much to me to hear that a therapist such as yourself would be suggesting this podcast to other people. And I just see this ripple, this chain effect of all of us coming home to ourselves. What happens when we remember why we're here? It's so incredibly powerful, and it does create such a big change in this world. So if you are wondering that today, if you're listening, if you're wondering if it's enough, I want you to know that it is. I want you to know that all the work you're doing is more than enough, and it truly is creating a ripple effect in this world. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being yourself. Thank you for being the land spirit that you are, because that's kind of one of the secrets, right? That we are land spirits too. And we are here to be in co-creation, and we are supporting the landscapes that we move through. And the thing that we can bring that really is the greatest gift of all to the landscapes in which we live, to this earth, and to other people is to remember this most important thing of all, why we're here. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.